Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I thank the Honourable Lady for the question? Tuesday marked 1 year since the publication of Baroness Casey's national audit on group-based child sexual exploitation and abuse. The House will recall that the Government accepted all 12 recommendations of what was a landmark report, exposing more than a decade of failure and inaction on the part of the state. Scandalously, the most vulnerable in society were let down by the very institutions that should have protected them. As the Home Secretary made clear in her written statement to the House earlier this week, this Government is determined to confront the failings that occurred directly and decisively. We have made good progress against the mandate for change set out by Baroness Casey, with action taken or ongoing in relation to all 12 of her recommendations. We have changed the law on rape to remove any ambiguity about the ability of 13 to 16-year-olds to consent to sex, established a new national police operation, Operation BEACONPORT, overseen by the National Crime Agency and backed by £38 million of funding this year, legislated to disregard any convictions for so-called child prostitution, and commission new research into the drivers of these heinous crimes, including ethnicity, religion, cultural factors, group dynamics and the role of online technologies. Central to our response is the statutory independent inquiry into grooming gangs. Having been formally established in April, the work of the inquiry is underway and it will shortly announce the first local areas that will face investigation. The terms of reference have been shaped by the testimony, priorities and lived experience of victims and survivors. And can I take this opportunity to pay tribute to them, Mr Speaker, and to all who have campaigned to get us to this point. The inquiry will have a laser focus on grooming gangs, including the role that ethnicity, religion and culture played in these terrible crimes. Mr Speaker, our message is clear. We will do whatever it takes to secure justice for those who were so badly let down, pursuing the evidence wherever it may lead, exposing failings and taking every necessary step to protect the most vulnerable in our society. For too long, questions about what was and will forever be one of the darkest moments in this country's history have gone unanswered. That must change, which is why the Government has established a full independent inquiry to shine a light on past horrors, alongside our wider work to tackle exploitation and abuse, which is backed by a record £100 million in Home Office funding this year, and an unrelenting effort to keep our children safe from harm.
Secretary statement.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Minister for their answer. It has been 1 year since Dame Louise Casey's stark and deeply troubling review into group-based child sexual exploitation, known rightly as the rape gangs. She exposed what we know now, a culture of institutional blindness, weak data, fragmented accountability and a reluctance to confront uncomfortable truths and ultimately stand up for women and girls who have been systematically abused, or simply they have not chosen to act for the bigger fear was being labelled racist. Disgraceful. So deep concerns remain that progress on justice has been too slow and that in some areas is simply superficial. She has rightly warned of a box-ticking culture. This Government talks a good game, but recent ministerial Home Office resignations have raised serious questions about what it's delivering in practice. So how does the Minister respond to the deeply distressing but bold testimony of Fiona Goddard, who has bravely highlighted that some of the men convicted of abusing her have been released early, with some others potentially due for release soon? This is Labour's choices and we warn them. Therefore, what action is being taken to rebuild the confidence of the victims in this process? Does the Minister deeply regret opposing measures to prevent early release in such heartbreaking and horrific cases? Finally, how is the Government ensuring sentencing and post-release supervision reflect the severity of these crimes? I remind in the House. They were warned by us about their dire choices on the safety of women and girls. What are they going to do about it? Will anything change before the next election, or is this simply in the long grass? Survivors' voices and community concerns need to be heard. This is a matter of justice, accountability and trust. This government needs to step up and protect our women and our girls.
Minister.
14 years.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I think we can agree on some of what the Honourable Lady has said. She's right that there was institutional blindness, and that we have seen in other ways across the state as well, and not just in these horrific cases, and it is something that we know we need to change. And she is right to speak of the victims and the horrors that they have suffered. And she is right to keep a focus on that. I would just gently say on the prison situation that she said that they warned us. I mean, we warned them for very many years about the state of our prison estate and the catastrophic situation that we found when we came into government, where there just simply weren't enough prison places and the whole system was at the point of collapse. And of course we have had to respond to that. I, as policing minister, have a duty to ensure that our police are policing our streets and making sure they keep everybody safe, and we are of course always aware of those people who are former criminals who've been in prison who come out, to make sure we are keeping an eye on them in the right way. And I spend a lot of my time talking to the police about how we do that. In terms of Louise Casey, who I think we all admire very greatly and are very grateful for the work that she continues to do. Of course, Louise Casey is right to push us to go faster. Of course she is. She always will, and that's why we asked her to do the job, because she demands the best from us. She also has praised the progress of the government in establishing the inquiry and the work that has been done to date. She is pushing us, understandably, on three areas around the convictions of the non-child prostitution convictions that people who've been groomed might have been convicted of, Operation BEACONPORT having information flows in the right way, and Whitehall sort of taking this with the urgency that it needs to be. On all of those cases, we are going as fast as we can. We are responding to the questions that she has rightly asked, and we are pushing to get all of this work done as quickly as possible. She was very clear the inquiry should be a relatively speedy one. This was one of the challenges of Baroness J and her inquiry that took many, many, many years, excellent though it was. And so the inquiry will be concluded by 2029. It has £65 million of funding, and we will get to the answers.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Spicy Review of 2018 into the handling of widespread sexual exploitation in Newcastle of children and vulnerable adults found a culture which did not, which enabled the exploitation and rape of children and vulnerable adults, and a culture of victim, by not investigating them, and a culture of victim blaming. Now, it also praised Newcastle City Council and Northumbria Police's actions following the investigation. Now, I have repeatedly contacted Northumbria Police to raise issues around child exploitation and to seek reassurances of their actions. Given the Casey review comments, how can I ensure that Northumbria Police have the resources and support they need to support the victims, identify victims, to believe them, to encourage them to come forward, and a culture of investigation and openness and transparency to reassure my constituents?
Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend for the question? Of course, I'm happy to facilitate conversations, but it sounds like the Honourable Lady is already having those conversations. We are working on police culture, as she will know, and things like the Hillsborough law and some of the other wider work we're doing across government to make sure we have the right openness and transparency and the right culture to be professionally curious and seek out solutions is very important. On the specifics, obviously all of the forces across the country have had an increase in funding this year, and Operation BEACONPORT has its own fund of £38 million. So the funding should be there, but of course I'm happy to have further conversations with her about it.
Goldman, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is deeply disheartening to see that a year on from Baroness Casey's audit, that the government has not made greater progress. These victims have already been failed once. They must not be failed again. There have been over 800 recommendations produced by previous inquiries, most of which have not been implemented. We see this over and over again across departments. Inquiry launched, recommendations produced and accepted by the government, and then nothing, while victims continue to suffer. I wholeheartedly support the independent inquiry into grooming gangs, but it must not become an excuse to delay implementing the changes we already know are needed. So will the Minister set out a clear timeline for implementing all of Baroness Casey's recommendations in full? And will the Minister make clear to every organisation with a duty to safeguard children that the hundreds of recommendations from previous inquiries are not nice-to-haves, but must be implemented at pace and without further delay?
Minister.
Can I thank her for her question? The inquiry led by Anne Longfield will look at previous inquiries and recommendations and bring all of those into their remit, and I would encourage the Honourable Lady to perhaps sit down and talk to Anne Longfield, if she hasn't done already. She has done already, to make sure her concerns in that space are felt. I would just say on recommendations from inquiries, it's not an unreasonable point of view. I gave evidence recently to the Nottingham inquiry, and one of the issues that they're looking at is exactly this, that government inquiries over many years happen, recommendations are made, and then actually there isn't the oversight. The Cabinet Office is acting on that, bringing together and making sure it has a function to sort of drive, ensuring that whatever department it is, whatever role it is, we do prioritise those recommendations from inquiries. We are making progress on all of the recommendations from Baroness Casey, and I would say we are making good progress. Of course, we need to push as fast as we can. She's right on that.
Joanna Baxter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Victims and survivors absolutely have to be at the heart of this inquiry. So can the Minister talk to us about how practically they are being put at the centre of this work, what access to support they are being provided with, and what meaningful opportunities they have to shape the outcomes of the inquiry?
Minister.
Can I thank my right honourable friend? She's absolutely right to highlight the role of victims here and the need for us to be survivor-focused and trauma-informed all the way through, and that is exactly what the inquiry is focused on. They are working on a victims' charter, which they are going to publish very soon, which will set out all the questions that the Honourable Lady has asked in terms of how we will ensure we are both supporting and also hearing the voices of front and centre all those victims who we know weren't listened to for so long.
Bob Black.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I sat on the Housing, Communities and Local Government Select Committee for 14 years, and of course we saw the first expose of the scandals of the grooming gangs, particularly in Rochdale and other places in the north of England. Dame Louise Casey came in front of us, made recommendations which have still not been carried out. So, full power to the Minister to actually make this happen. The sad reality is that, as I understand at the moment, police forces are resisting the collection of ethnicity data and indeed resisting the investigation into those that turned a blind eye to what was going on in terms of grooming gangs. So will the Minister ensure that police forces carry out their duties properly and that those who turned a blind eye to what was going on are actually brought to justice and suffer the consequences of not protecting vulnerable girls.
Minister.
Can I thank him for his question? And I'd be very happy to have a conversation with him, or if he's got any information about which forces, what he's heard on that front. Of course, it would be very worrying if that were the case. We have made it clear that ethnicity needs to be reported on this kind of grooming-based CSE that we are dealing with here. We've also committed that in the police reform white paper that we'll be introducing soon, and that was announced in the King's speech, that will commit to do it across the board, so that ethnicity reporting will be mandated and part of what the police have to do.
Steve Race.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister mentioned the issue of institutional bias, blindness to these horrific crimes. Can she outline how this vital inquiry's terms of reference have been designed to ensure a thorough examination of those institutional failings that meant that action wasn't taken to protect children?
Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend? And of course, the terms of reference are very wide and very clear, and will look at cultural, ethnicity, race, and any kind of bias that might have been in the system, that was in the system in this case. And I think there is a wider question that Louise Casey has talked about many times, and that we are trying to drive through. I'm trying to drive through policing, and I know others are trying to drive through other areas of work, which is about this professional curiosity, keeping an open mind, problem solving, looking, finding, and actually being curious to get to the bottom of what is happening and finding those connections. There is also a big piece of work, I think, around just the information sharing across different organisations, because there is a blindness that comes from all the different institutions not talking to each other in the way that they should, and not picking up vulnerability where we should. And we've seen that with Southport, Nottingham, we see it here. So there is a big job to be done there too.
Vicky Slade.
The abuse of children is the most disgusting of crimes, and anyone involved in it or protecting someone involved in it must face justice. But the Honourable Member for Great Yarmouth, who I note is not in his place, published his report this week. And my constituents are eager to understand why the statutory inquiry is going to take 3 years. Can she assure me how agencies are working together now? Another 2 years, it's several years. But why is the government-backed inquiry going to take so long?
Minister.
Can I thank her for her question? The honourable member that she refers to has done a piece of work, and I would welcome the work that he has done, and hope that he will pass on to the police the sort of criminal evidence that he has gathered, and pass on to the inquiry any evidence that he has gathered. This is a independent statutory inquiry. It is a very different thing. It will be absolutely ruthless in making sure we can outline every single part of what has gone wrong here and learn every single lesson that we have to learn. It is a completely different thing. What I would say is that statutory inquiries of this nature have in the past taken years and years, and Louise Casey was very clear that she wanted it to be time limited, and so we have said we want it finished, which is unusual in an inquiry, and there are some inquiries from the previous government set up that are still ongoing now. So it will be done by 2029, but it is a completely different piece of work. It will be enormously thorough, and it will get to the bottom of what happened, and bring us, the answers that I know victims and the whole of the country want to see.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The grooming gangs represent the most profound betrayal against some of the most vulnerable people in our society, and the victims were failed by the very institutions that should have protected them. Justice was denied whilst perpetrators escaped accountability. The vile individuals who systematically groomed, abused and violated these girls must face full force of the law. Can the Minister provide an update on how Operation BEACONPORT, and explain how its work is helping to identify offenders, secure justice for victims and strengthen the national response to tackling these heinous crimes?
Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend for the question? Operation BEACONPORT is being led by the National Crime Agency, which is very best of our serious organised crime operators, and we are treating this as we would treat serious organised crime, which is what it is. We're treating it with the very utmost seriousness. The NCA are working with local police forces around the country to do reviews of closed cases. They made an announcement yesterday that honourable members can see online about reopening cases, and they are funded this year with £38 million, which is a very substantial amount of money which will enable them to uncover, go back over and reopen cases where they feel that there is injustice has been done and that actually these cases need to be opened again.
Ben Lake.
For the inquiry to secure justice for victims and survivors in Wales, it's essential that it fully understands the devolved context of Wales and the various lines of accountability that arise from it. One way to achieve that would be for Wales to receive a specific investigation as one of the inquiry's designated local areas. Can I ask whether the Minister can consider that?
Minister.
Well, as the honourable gentleman knows, the inquiry is entirely independent, and it's not for us to say where it should lead. What I would say is that I know that the inquiry are going to be announcing shortly the first branch of areas that they will be going to, so he will be able to see at least the first stage of those areas soon.
Patricia Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wonder if the Minister could advise if she believes that the inquiry has the appropriate powers and also the flexibility to allow it to follow the evidence wherever it leads, so that the recommendations can then drive lasting improvements in safeguarding and child protection. And can she advise if she is in dialogue with the Scottish Government on these matters too?
Minister.
Thank her for her question. She can be reassured that this inquiry has all the powers that it needs to go without fear or favour to find the answers that we all seek. This issue is too important for us not to have ensured that, so we absolutely have. And I know that my colleague, the Minister for Safeguarding, will be in contact with her counterparts in the Scottish Government to make sure we are joined up in our approach.
Tesselman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I echo the comments about how disgusting these particular crimes are? Lady Casey identifies the government's quashing of convictions has failed to take account of the whole picture. So quashing convictions for underage prostitution is laudable, but there are other convictions like possessing drugs given to those who are abused by their abusers or carrying them under coercion. The Minister referred to professional curiosity. I wondered if she could encourage people around her to engage exactly that and to look further than just the very first conviction, the main conviction, and to sort this out.
Can I thank her for the question? As she says, we have quashed convictions for people under 18 who were tried for prostitution. That was a very important part of this picture. And Louise Casey is suggesting that we go further. At the moment, victims can apply. They can come in and apply, and I think she wants a more proactive response. So we are working on more active guidance for victims.
Ms. Moore.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the Minister for her response and for her reassurance that this inquiry will have the powers to go wherever and to whomever it needs to get the answers for the families in Redditch and other areas affected by these heinous crimes. Can I ask her, when the initial set of inquiries are announced, if areas that we represent are not included but we still want to persist and ensure that our families get the justice that they required, how am I best placed to do that via the department and via her?
Minister.
Can I thank him for the question? As I said, the inquiry is independent of government, and that's right and proper. What I would suggest is that he speaks to Anne Longfield, who is leading this work, or her panel. When they make their announcement, of course, people will say, well, what about other areas? I'm sure that will be the case, and I'm sure that they will be working through that and dealing with the priorities as they see them, and I'm sure they would welcome input from the honourable member.
Christopher Chope.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Lady has referred to the grooming gangs inquiry carried out by our friend, the member for Great Yarmouth. And early day motion 380 makes a number of recommendations, will the Minister engage with our honourable friend in ensuring that his ideas and recommendations can be taken forward, because we don't want to have to wait for 3 years until the Baroness Casey report comes?
Start.
Well, firstly, can I reassure him that we're not waiting 3 years until the inquiry to act? We are already doing a lot of work, as I've already outlined, things like Operation BEACONPORT to reopen cases, and we are using the legislative process to do what we need to do in terms of data collection, ending the statutory rape definition. There is a whole raft of work that we are doing, and of course we have a wider piece of work around violence against women and girls, and our ambition to halve that in 10 years. What I hope is that the honourable member he refers to is talking to Anne Longfield, who is chairing the inquiry, which, as I say, is independent. She will take all information from all places, and as I said, I hope he's feeding his information into her, and I hope that if he's got criminal evidence, he is passing that to the police. I'm sure he has uncovered and talked to some victims of the most grievous harm, and we want to make sure that they see that the government is acting in the best way appropriate.
Blinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My thoughts are with the victims of these despicable grooming gangs. Does my honourable friend agree with me that it's vital, in the context of the numerous actions this government have taken to protect women and girls, that despite this, members in this House, honourable members in this House, sometimes use language inside and outside this House which allows the spreading of tropes online about my party and honourable members on this side, which I can speak from personal experience have real-world implications, because those online tropes affect the behaviour of people in the real world. And does she agree with me that it is incumbent upon honourable and right honourable members in this House and outside this House to use temperate language? Opposition is needed and expected, but politicising such an important issue can create real risk to honourable members in the real world and others.
Minister.
I couldn't agree more with my honourable friend. We all have a duty to try and use language in a way that doesn't incite hatred and division, and of course there are very strong feelings, particularly around this area, because the crimes are so heinous, and there was so much that was wrong in the way that the state in all its forms responded to those crimes. So I understand the anger, but I do urge all honourable members to be careful with their language. We've all received in real life the impact of what we are seeing online, and it can be very scary and very dangerous, and I know that lots of honourable members have had the same, so I would urge everybody to treat this issue with the respect that it deserves.
James Sham.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the Minister very much for her encouraging answers, and also to put on record that no one doubts the Minister's commitment to deliver justice in this House, and we thank her for her commitment to that. Will the Minister outline what urgent steps government will take to action the recommendations on mandatory ethnicity recording of offenders, deportation of all foreign national perpetrators, full institutional failures by the police, the social services, local authorities, the NHS, and follow through with a national public inquiry with subpoena powers? Thanks very much.
Minister.
Can I thank him for his question on ethnicity? We will be legislating in the police reform bill that is shortly coming before Parliament to ensure ethnicity is recorded in the way that I think everyone in this House wants to see. In terms of foreign national offenders, he will know that we have increased very substantially the number of foreign national offenders that are being deported. Since the last government, there has been a big increase, and that's quite right, and we will continue to do that, and we will continue to do the work across all of our departments to make sure people are acting in the way that they should be, and there is a whole raft of work underway across multiple departments to make sure that's the case.